This is the Rich Dad StockCast with Andy Tanner, the show that kicks 401ks in the asphalt and teaches you to be the master of your own stock investing domain. And here's your host, Greg Arthur.
All right, thank you for joining the show. Before we start the show, I do have a warning. There is I don't want to swear here. There's a clown in our comment section that is a complete fraud. He's writing as if he's the Rich Dad company. He even uses the Rich Dad logo, and it's total BS. He's trying to steal your money. In the show notes, I placed a link to the real Rich Dad YouTube channel, so use that, please. This fake guy, he's hurting people, he's stealing from them, and he just pisses me off. So that's my public service announcement. I'm done. So just screw that guy.
Are you serious, Greg? Someone's really doing that?
Yeah, and he's crazy active. He's not just in the comments when people reply to the comments. This guy is dedicated to stealing
thievery.
Yeah, it makes me so mad. And sorry guys, and then we'll get on with this.
All right. It's all right to talk about that. You know, sometimes if someone would just innovate and put all that energy into their own idea, they would be wealthier.
Oh, that is so true. And you know what? The truth is he's stealing energy from the real Rich Dad company, because we actually now have a person that spends half their job fighting them and getting them shut down on YouTube. And then he just pops up the next day. And I hate this guy or people. Yeah. Oh, it's all right. That's not why people chose to listen to the show. So let's get on with it.
All right.
So today's topic is Trump is out, Biden is in, but does that mean the stocks are going to drop? Was there really what's called a Trump bump on the economy? Was there an effect that investors feel more secure and thus more likely to invest and thereby boost the economy? Is Biden really going to print more money than Trump did? I don't even know if that's possible. Trump set the record, by the way, once COVID-19 hit. So what does this change? What does the change of power really mean to our listeners? How should they invest? What is Robert doing, Andy? What is Warren Buffett doing? And Andy, what we really care about is what are you doing?
Oh boy.
Yeah. So are you changing your strategies? Is it business as usual? That's what we really want to know. And honestly, that's what we need to learn as this change in power happens.
Well, you know, if you want to get into conversational nitroglycerin, just start talking religion and politics. So, you know, you can set a bomb off pretty easy by just bringing up the topic. You know, I can't speak for Robert other than what I've heard him say. You know, right now I've never known Robert to be really much of a political activist until this last little while. He's very, very active politically, and he cares a lot. And there are some things, you know, politic-wise that, you know, I'm concerned about. I know that if we have freedom of speech, that people are going to abuse that. Anytime you have freedom, people are going to abuse those freedoms. And so when they abuse those freedoms and hurt people, there's a large amount of people say, well, we should take that freedom away from everyone because, you know, a few bad apples can spoil the bunch. And you can almost pick any topic, and it really comes down to, you know, maybe not so much freedom, but how people use it and the goodness of it. And, you know, I'm not going to decide that. Society is going to decide, you know, what it is. I mean, there are some businesses that are not allowed to do business in every state. Nevada has certain businesses, I've heard, that are only in Nevada that have to do with adult services, that there's not another state in the union that says that's okay. So that's Nevada. So
heard that.
So I've heard that. So there's going to be laws, you know, the people. But so while I share some of Robert's concerns, you know, very much about freedom of speech, we have different approaches. He was a Marine. And so, you know, his training is, you know, let's go, let's fight. And I think it's important we have Marines to fight. Me, I don't do this anymore, but when I was a kid, when I was 19 years old, I was a missionary. I was a pastor. And I spent a couple of years, you know, knocking doors and spreading the word. So I'm more of an evangelist, I guess. And so I try to persuade people about how they might think. And I think you need both. I think both require courage.
Andy, you just said the two things that cause problems are politics and religion, and you
And there we go.
just brought them both in.
You got Robert and me,
What are
right?
you doing?
So I don't really, I don't, one of the signs in my wall is that has changed my mind about a lot of things in my life is Steve Jobs at the top says, don't be trapped by dogma, because dogma is when you're kind of a prisoner of other people's thinking. So we'll talk about a little bit about politics. We'll leave religion for another day because that's a real big one. So let's talk about what capitalism is, okay? In my view, and Robert might disagree, he's writing a book on capitalism right now, so I'm interested to read it. But to me, capitalism, if I'm a capitalist, how do I think? And the way I think is I look around and I say, how could I help this world? And if I see someone helping the world, I say, well, could I do a better job than they could? Like here's someone with a really cool phone that you can carry around now. It's not attached to a wall like the one in my kitchen. This guy can carry around, but it's about that freaking big. Battery lasts about 2 hours, and all it is a phone. If I could make it cheaper, number one, where it wasn't, $5,000, if I can make it so everyone could have one and maybe put a camera in it, maybe make it like, what if I made it like this one? And it was light and it was cheaper and it did so many more things than just a phone. And instead, $2,000-$3,000 for it, maybe I make it like $1,000 or maybe $800. Then I'm going to serve people and connect people. And I'll bet you everyone would they probably wouldn't have dinner anymore together. They'd just be doing this all the time. That would serve the people. And so, I'm thinking, how can I drive prices down so people will get my product, and I'm going to do that by serving them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can I give you a little story?
Please.
One of the things, I have 3 teenagers, and one of the things we do every night around the dinner table is we have to go around and we have to tell each other a problem that we saw that day. Then
Okay.
we go around and we discuss how can we solve that problem. And there is one rule, and that rule is there's no rules. You can invent something in your head. You can do whatever you want with your imagination, because we feel that that brings out better solutions than what's already existing. But the whole lesson there is exactly what you said. An entrepreneur's job is to solve a problem. And so we always start out at the family identifying a problem.
Yeah. And so that's good capitalism. Now, bad capitalism is there's a term called, I'm going to capitalize on this opportunity. Well, sometimes if I'm bigger and stronger and I'm not really trying to serve the people, I'm just trying to serve myself, then force comes into play and I can beat up someone for their lunch money, so to speak. And so let me talk about this idea right here is, let's look at Bill Ackman and Carl Icahn for a minute. Bill Ackman decides to short Herbalife. That's his right. That's his choice. That's fine. You can invest however you want to invest. But then he's out there saying he created a campaign against them, saying things about them. He's not just quietly investing. He's advocating, trying to get the SEC involved, trying to say he's trying to destroy their business to enrich himself. He's trying to destroy their business to enrich himself. Well, Carl Icahn sees this and, well, he doesn't like that idea and he's got billions. So he says, I'll start a war with Bill. And so they invest opposingly to fight each other, and someone's going to win and get rich, someone's going to lose, get poor. And I'm thinking, okay, who's that serving? Do the Reddit people buy GameStop because they want to be in the video game business and they believe in that business and they believe GameStop is going to serve more people in the future, that they're going to turn around? Or are they just after the hedge funds? Is the hedge funds just trying to crush people? So when you have freedom, there's a responsibility. I love what Robert always, used to say for years when I travel with him, is he used to say this a lot. He'd say, look, legal, ethical, moral, those 3 things. Now morals, everyone has their own, but ethical is treating people right, doing the right thing, and, you do it within the law. And so when capitalists break the law, that's not capitalism. When capitalism, acts unethically, that's not capitalism. So it's really not about capitalism or socialism so much, in my view, about selfishness. Let's talk about personal responsibility for a minute on both sides. if I am a socialist, let's say I say, look, I'm a human being, I have certain rights. No, I think you have basically a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not happiness itself, the pursuit of it. And I teach my kids that life, liberty, the pursuit. You're free to pursue happiness, but you have a responsibility with that freedom. Freedom and responsibility come together, and you have a responsibility with your freedom to make something of yourself by serving others. And so when they were 3 years old, my older son was 5. We started our famous lemonade stand that's kind of become famous. And there's probably still pictures Googled out there on the internet of a lemonade stand. But I said, your job is to make the best drink you can make at a fair price people enjoy paying for, and serve as many people as you can. And that's how you're going to earn your money in your life. And so the idea of entitlement is something for nothing, right? Well, I deserve because I exist. That's not really how it is. So you have a problem with freedom in its abuse of selfishness and an unwillingness to serve, jealousy of the rich, disdain for the poor. I see very much both sides. So that's my little soliloquy on how I feel about it. And I know there'll be people that disagree with that, and I celebrate their disagreement because they're free. And I would defend their right to disagree with me to my death. I would send my son to war to defend their right to disagree with me, because if everyone agreed with me, we'd probably be in a lot of trouble because I don't have the best ideas all the time. So that's that. Now, when it comes to investing in the market, let's talk about the change of presidency. So Warren Buffett had a great quote. Warren Buffett is my favorite stock investor by far. He and Charlie Munger, Charlie's 90, I want to say 96, and Buffett's either turned or turned 90. I think his birthday's in October. I can't remember, but here you have almost 200 years of experience, coming in on 200 years of experience. And there's a great quote. CNBC was interviewing Buffett, who's a Democrat, about Trump, a Republican. And he said, well, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not a card-carrying Democrat. And I think he means Democrat maybe more socially, right, than fiscally.
Right.
And he says, look, I don't judge Trump I want to judge him on his leadership. I don't worry about the economy. And Buffett said something really, really important. And I'll read it here. I have the quote here. Probably half the time in my life, I've had a president other than the one I voted for, but that's never taken me out of stocks. So the question is, why would that be? Now, I've never I'll just be transparent. I'm more of a libertarian, so I've never had my vote it's counted. I'm used to losing every time.
There you go.
And the reason I like that idea is, when I think about liberty, the reason I'm a libertarian is it's not who I vote for, it's how I live my life. Personal responsibility and personal liberty. How can I serve other people? I tend to be very liberal in my social views, tend to be very conservative in my fiscal views of how we ought to use money. And so I really don't care. The market really doesn't care, I should say. They just want to know the rules.
So
if they know the rules, what the market hates is uncertainty. So if it's Republican, they'll say fine. If it's Democrat, they'll say fine. But what they don't want is ambiguity of not knowing what's going to happen, because the market is a forward-thinking instrument. And as long as the market knows thinks they know what will happen, they can invest with confidence, bearish, bullish, in whatever it's going to be.
So just to bottom line this, you're saying it truly doesn't matter.
Well, it matters. That would be
to the stock market.
That'd be too much of a blanket statement to say it doesn't matter at all. If you're going to say it doesn't matter or not, that's a tough question, because the truth is usually in the middle of things. What I will say is it probably doesn't matter as much as people think. Let me give you an example. The government has a couple of powers to affect business that the market would care about. Number one is taxation. And if they pull money out of people's pockets, they can't spend as much. But the government doesn't, or the stock market doesn't like taxation, but they love spending. So you have, lower taxes on a Republican side, the market loves that. but the market would love to see a lot more spending. Why? Well, the reason why is if the government spends money on, let's say they do stimulus, they do a PPP program. That money goes to people, that money goes in the economy, stock market makes money. Let's say that they do government contracts for infrastructure. That money goes in the economy. So I guess what the market would really love to see is low taxes, lots of spending. And if the government says, well, we'll print all that money, stock market says that's like the best of both worlds. We're not going to tax it out of people's pockets. They can spend it. We're going to give it to them. They can spend it. All that money is going to go into business. What's not to like? Now, whether that's sustainable or not, I don't know if they like it, but
right. Quick question though. That's not really the president that controls those things. That sounds more like
no, it's
Congress.
Well, this president can veto. I mean, in high school you learn, or in junior high you say, well, legislatives legislate and create laws. President's supposed to enforce laws, and then the judicial interprets what they mean. Which is interesting that a body that didn't write them determines what they mean. So you can legislate from the bench, and what happens is all three of those branches of power try to usurp power from the other one, right? Judicial will legislate from the bench, even though that's the Congress's job. Well, the president has veto power. So the president can say, look, here's my plan, make it legislation, or I'll veto it, right? And then the Congress will say, well, if you don't let us do what we want to do, we'll just write laws and, make you look bad having to veto our stuff. So they usurp power from each other, and it's kind of a mess all the time. It's one of the reasons we have problems in our country like we do. But the market, like Warren Buffett said, what's bigger is the second thing they do, other than controlling where money goes a little bit, is the second thing they do is they have regulations. And so they can say, look, no more emissions in California, right? They can say, look, you have to have certain emissions in your car. And so, they'll adjust. What's really interesting, though, is the government probably believes they can affect things more than they do. Let's talk about solar. So no one's buying electric cars, maybe like Bill Maher. I like him. He's pretty funny. He drove this little tiny electric car, and he's driving a golf cart, right, to save the planet. And I think that's cool. But consumers really didn't buy in until Tesla says, oh, this golf cart can go from 0 to 60 faster than a Corvette can. This one can go to 0 to 60 faster than a Ferrari. And by the way, it's freaking cool. I mean, you can push a button and it'll whoopee cushion someone in the backseat. I mean, when it became cool, that's why Elon Musk is such a great capitalist, is he saw a way to do something that was cooler, higher quality, and even cheaper than it could have been done. That's awesome. So, now solar is kind of cool because it's become what? Cheaper. Because it's become cheaper. And now the incentives for solar in my state are almost nil. They've changed all those laws to incentivize people because it didn't work anyway. But as soon as the price came down, people will vote for stuff with their dollars. So I believe, it's going to be about innovating. I know that, the reason Robert is very, very passionate politically is the environment of freedom allows us to serve the people. And if that starts getting restricted, we can't serve them as well. And that's a dangerous place to go. But if you go to, let's look at Greece, for example. They were in a fiscal mess. Look at Venezuela. They're in a fiscal mess. Well, there's entrepreneurs who have been successful and are rich in all those countries. There's people in Greece that have a life that is so abundant, it's beyond what most people would ever dream of. And their government's in dire straits fiscally, right? I've been to Japan, I've been to Taiwan, I've been to Singapore, I've been to South America, I've been to Europe. There's people in all of those countries that show up to learn because there's enough freedom in those countries that they can serve people and they want to learn how to do it. If you're in real estate, what are you really doing? You're serving people. So how many people can you provide housing for? Can you provide housing at a cheap? Look, I have this house. It's not the first rental house I got, but it was one of the early ones. And I have a lady in there. Her and her husband built that home. They got in trouble and they were victims of a predatory loan. That's bad capitalism, right? Someone hurt them and put them in a rough situation. Now, it's partly their fault too. Look, don't get in. No one forced them to get in that loan. Right. It was their lack of education that, let's not blame the victims here, but let's also say, hey, you shouldn't have gotten that loan. And, education is an important thing, and you're responsible for your own health. You're responsible for your own education. But they did make a mistake and they got a predatory loan. Well, when that loan adjusted, that arm, adjustable rate mortgage adjusted, they couldn't afford the payment. They called their son and said, hey, we're losing our home. Can we move in? So their son called me and I looked at their credit. It wasn't good. I looked at mine. It was pretty good. And so first thing I did is I bought that house with cash, just got it away from the bank. And I says, okay, now we've got control of it. What do you want to do with it? And they said there were 6 siblings. There wasn't much equity. It was probably 50,000 equity. That's 10 grand a piece before taxes. They said, we don't want the 10 grand. We just want mom to have a place to stay. So I got their rent back down to where their old payment was. I cash flowed maybe $150 out of it. Okay, it got some good tax advantages. But you know what? He died about 3 years ago. She's been in that house now for like 14, 15 years. And I'll never raise her rent. I feel good about that because I'm competing against, that's probably a rent now, $1,400 a month home. I keep it to her for $850 because, it works and she's happy and I feel good. I wish I had 1,000 of those.
Yeah.
I wish I had that. Now, if I abuse it and I leverage her and I become Mr. Potter, that's when capitalism is going to suffer if you abuse it, right? So I look at, my cash flow academy. My goal is to teach as many people as want to be taught in my style, serve more people, do it at a lower price than anyone else is doing it. And that's, I think the consumer drives it more than the government does.
So can I interrupt you?
Yeah, please.
You taught me 2 things there. And one you've taught almost in every show, and that is it's the investor that matters, not the investment, not even the government, and not even the economy.
I would say it matters more. Look, the government matters, again, to say government doesn't matter, it's only this. To be in absolutes all the time is kind of a rough place to call. That's kind of what Democrats and Republicans believe. It should always be this way. It should always, and we believe what's right for you. All of those fights are necessary and important to decide how we want to live together. But when it comes to you as an investor, I'll just say this. Are you investing to get rich or are you investing to serve others? Warren Buffett is my freaking favorite guy. Look at the brands he owns. Fruit of the Loom. That's a great business to be in. All the Reddit people need new underwear and all the hedge fund people need new underwear now, right? Great business. He sells underwear. He sells blizzards. I'm a customer. Here, son, have a blizzard. They're freaking awesome. Put a smile on your face. Here, Warren, here's $3. Thank you. He sells Coca-Cola. He sells Geico insurance to protect people's cars. He sells, Apple. 43, like half of his investments now are in Apple. Like as far as money invested in stocks is in Apple. He says Apple is either the second or third largest business he owns now or something like that. And he says, I look at myself as an owner of a company serving people, getting dividends, or investing in companies like Snowflake that I think someday will pay a dividend, but it's not as selfish as people might think.
And that's the second point. You can be an investor, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a capitalist, and it doesn't mean you're a greedy person. It can actually mean you're serving people.
Josh and Lisa Lannon have a book. Can I plug their book?
Yeah, of course.
Josh and Lisa Lannon have a book called The Social Capitalist.
So hold on. They are also rich dad investors.
Yes.
And they're advisors, sorry. And their category, their area is to be capitalists, but capitalists with a heart.
Yeah. And their business is called Warrior's Heart. They have a 500-acre ranch in Texas, and they take first responders, military, police, paramedics, people who've seen awful things. They get PTSD and they turn to the bottle or drugs, and they say, come to our ranch and let's help you, recover. And so, yeah, they're making money, but they're doing it in a way that what happened? Why did they make money? Because this guy's life was saved. This guy didn't commit suicide. This guy's back working again. This guy is going to not get a divorce because of his alcoholism. This guy. And so they're serving people. And the problem when people come to I don't have everyone in the Cash Flow Academy, because when people come into my academy, we teach that mindset, because you can do both. You can invest selfishly. What's in it for me? Me first, me. But I will just tell you, Buckminster Fuller said, the more people I serve, the more effective I become. Well, I'd also say the more people you serve, the more wealthy you'll become. But it's equitable. Don't, look, I'm not saying I want to be Gandhi and just go out and live in a robe and walk the streets barefoot. And, I did that as a pastor for a long, long time, and I had no income doing that. Right. So what I believed in is I found fair and equitable exchange. Values in the eye of the beholder. If I can serve someone and they pay me for it, to them, it meant a lot. And the problem is a lot of us say, well, this is how I feel, and everyone should feel the same way I do. Jeff Bezos shouldn't have 25 swimming pools. He shouldn't have that. Well, that's your opinion, but it's his life, not yours. He chose to have that. You might choose not to have that, but don't dog on people because they think differently than you do. Robert has I don't know how many Ferraris and Lamborghinis Robert has. I could buy a Lamborghini today, but I don't fit in it. And instead I, do things like travel with my kids, and I spend my money different ways. I don't rag on someone who says, well, that's too flashy. No, it's just not me. I usually look like wear a t-shirt, look like I mowed my grass today. Right. So freedom is a beautiful thing. But if you think that the president, this is very important. Look at the people who were rich. Let's go back to before Trump. Let's go to like Clinton. Let's start there. The people who were rich, like Warren Buffett and the Clinton administration, were also rich under the Bush W administration. And those that were struggling under the Clinton administration were still struggling under that. And then you go to Obama, and the people that were struggling under Clinton and Bush probably struggled under Obama. In other words, do you think that your paycheck is going to double or be cut in half because of Joe Biden? Really, what's going to determine your life? That's why I don't have cable news in my house. I don't want my kids listening to that crap. I'd rather have them watch an R-rated movie like The Matrix and see violence than the true violence that's on cable news and the hate. And this person's evil. I don't want them in that idea. This person is evil. Look, there is good and evil. I'm not trying to shelter them from that. But what I am, trying to do is say, look, as an investor and as a person, your wealth is going to be determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Now, if you're an employee, you're going to serve a boss. And whatever that boss tells you to do, you'll do. And you'll serve that, him or her. If you become self-employed, like a dentist, well, you'll serve more people. And you'll probably become richer because you have more people you're serving. Now, you won't serve millions of people as a dentist or as a doctor or as a lawyer. You'll have clients, but you'll serve more than just the boss. Now, if you become a business owner, one of the things that gets me emotional is I never thought in the world, I have students in 108 countries, Greg. You know how humbling that is to have that many people? We'll have thousands of people I had a guy in one of my webinars the other night from Greece, Saudi Arabia. He said, typed in, it's 4 a.m, Andy. I'm here to learn what you have to say. You know how humbling that is. That's awesome. And how that touches my heart that I could serve them that far away. So we have, millions of people we can serve. And then if you become an I, like Warren Buffett, now you're an owner of Apple. You're an owner. Billions of people he's serving with his products. And people kind of forget, so Steve Jobs, that's too much money for one person out. Do you know how hard it is to make 300 million iPads and get them around the world in kids so they have a window to the universe? I look at just my kids and what they learned in their iPads and the window of the universe, I hope that the people, I hope they make $1 zillion because they're blessing all those kids' lives with technology. So we see the money they make, but sometimes we forget how they change the world. And Steve Jobs changed the world. He deserves a little cash for that. If that's
Andy, we do got to wrap up. But if I was to pull 2 lessons just personally out of this, it's that you can make money and still be generous. And the more people you serve, the more you can make. But I also take that what's more important than what's happening around you, the government and all those things is yourself and growing your own self, so that one thing you can be successful in whatever situation you find yourself in.
Hopefully I've evangelized the message of capitalism and what it should be. And if more people take the proper attitude of capitalism, like Robert believes, serve more people, get prices down, serve, serve, serve. If that was capitalism, no one would have an issue with it. And it's only when it's abused that people begin to have an issue with it. And if the capitalists don't recognize that it is abused, if we say, oh, we're perfect, the socialists are horrible, we're perfect. No, capitalists need to be responsible, ethical, moral, legal. As long as that happens, there'd be no problem. So it's cultural more than political, right?
Right.
Politics grow out of your culture. So my job is to help people play the cash flow game and learn what it really is in their house. Around the table as a family. And if we have people around the table, then they'll care less about who the president is. They'll vote for better presidents, throughout our country's, future, at least the United States, speaking here in my home country. But wherever you are in the world, understand that investing is not about trying to get a hedge fund and bring them down. Investing is not about a hedge fund trying to crush a little company by using their force and power. Investing is not about who the president of the United States is. Investing is about, do I have a company that can serve more people, and do I want to own that company and share in the profits of that company? Are they doing well? And so I probably won't be in the political frame much. This is probably the most I'll ever say on it in my whole life, because that was the topic. But yeah, does the president matter? Of course it does. You should take your vote seriously. You should care about social issues, fiscal issues. You should be active in whatever you believe in. You should also be as educated, as informed as you can about how things really are, and be very open to learning on either side of the aisle, right? Be very open to learning, because if you already believe you know everything there is to know, be open to learning. And just know that, yeah, the government has some, but remember Warren Buffett, probably half the time in my adult life, I had a president other than one I voted for, it's never taken me out of stocks. You asked a question I didn't answer. We'll close with this. Andy, are you going to do anything different now than before? No, I'm not. I'm going to have an accountant help me with the new tax situation. And, I'll probably pay more taxes under a Biden administration. Which means I'm going to go out and have to serve more people and make more, I guess. I'm going to have attorneys, I'm going to have accountants, I'm going to have investments, and I'm going to keep trying to serve as many people I can as an educator. So for me, it won't change much in how do I invest. I might do a little evangelism for compassionate capitalism, social responsibility capitalism, like the Lannons do, to help the capitalists be strong, as well as try to keep communism out of our thing. So there's my political speech. But
All right.
whatever people do, I respect everyone's opinion, and I think that'd be a healthier way to do it. Better to have dialogue than fights, in my opinion. But sometimes Robert's right. Sometimes you got to fight to
Right.
fight. You have courage. It takes courage to do both.
Well, once again, Andy, thank you so much. We really appreciated it.
Awesome, Greg. Love speaking with you. I love these times we have together, and I know that people in the comments have been making requests on certain stuff.
Right.
So we hear you, and we're going to do some shows on some of the things that you want to hear about. Someone wanted to hear about the president and how that affects things. So that's my 2 cents. I could be wrong. I'm often am, and I'm willing to find out if I am wrong. So there you go.
All right. Thanks, Andy. And if you want more, Andy, in the show notes, other than the Real Rich Dad channel, in the show notes is a free book Andy has that you can download, as well as some free courses, webinars that Andy's done that you can watch for free.
It's been a while since the GameStop debacle started, but I would also tell people we did a 2-day class on that, was free, and that would be one. I don't know how you find it or Google it, or Greg, let's. But if people,
Oh, you know what? I'll dig up a link and I'll put it in there too.
That was one of the best 2-day classes. It broke our system. We had so many people register, so we have a replay, and that is worth watching. It's investment about 3-4 hours, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that link and I'll add that to the show notes. Thanks again, Andy.
Thanks.
Yep, bye.